Okay, after watching the clip, you can see the outcome of learning from students. So would you like to find out that in the second year, each and every school's experience, so we have this creative classroom with student-oriented approach. This is the first part, and we'd like to welcome Dr. Rena Hui, Associate Professor from the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences from the City University. He's an academic on this, and she would be working on talent or gifted children, and also cross-discipline learning and so on. So these are some of the areas that she specialized in, and she's also an honorary advisor on creative education. And we would also be inviting creative practitioners and teachers, and they are from different schools. They are from Christian and Missionary Alliance, Sun K Primary School, and also the HCKLA Buddhist Ching Kok Lin Association School, the Baptist University, and also Mr. Che Chen Singh, and also for audio creation, Mr. Lok Yat Wah, and also from the Baptist University, the affiliated school, Wong Kem Phai Secondary and Primary School, and also from Chin Mun Government Primary School, Ms. Wong Mei, the subject teacher, and also Mr. Lai Yi Hong. So I'll hand over the floor to Dr. Hui. I'm very pleased to be able to meet with all of you. Good morning to everyone. And I'm very grateful to Mr. Kitty Kom for this very remarkable presentation, and this is a very good warming up for us. So we are engaging in a lot of activities today, and this is already the second year that you participated in this program under the Jockey Club. This is also a very important program under AFTEC. This is a creative education program for schools. So I'd like to know how many of you are here for the first time. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Well, for those who are here for more than once, so thank you very much for your support. So I'd like to have more interaction with you. I noticed that for the panelists here, they've all got a card here. Well, on this occasion, the topic of our discussion, well, I've prevented them from speaking out on this topic. So let's not tell. And then we can have more interaction with the audience. So our guests, can you describe, so under this creative program, and what the process is like, and how does it connect with the card that you have in your hand? So through games and play, we will try to interact with people around you. So would like to bring you the process. All right, the process has taken place, and we have video clips, and on this occasion, we are very pleased to have the panelists and the guests. They have been through 2 years, and some have been through this for a year. So they would be sharing with us their first-hand experience, because so we would like to share with you our first-hand experience. Well, as Kitty Kon said, there would be the 6-minute limit. Well, for creativity, there should be no limitation at all. And then for teachers working at schools, we are subject to a lot of restrictions, our time restriction, our classroom restriction, and our kids, well, they have different abilities and aptitudes. So the restriction is you're not supposed to read out the two characters, but then you would also have to impart the idea in the audience. Okay, so how do you do it? Okay, you have this card. Just think about it, because I'm not supposed to tell it. Well, all I can say is, well, this card is about this forced association when we teach. All right, that card gives you some information that may not have a direct bearing on your work. Well, that may not have a direct bearing on teachers' work. But then now you're subject to this restriction. So tell us the connection. the connectivity. Because of the time limit, we have already chosen the one who is going to speak first. Okay, supposedly it's Mr. Hui. Okay, you first. Ms. Hui. Wow, testing. So how can I show this card to you? Well, am I supposed to describe it? Okay, in my card, there is an elephant, and then there is a very little bird on the back of the elephant. All right, the bird is singing, and then the elephant is playing with an instrument. And then I'll have to describe it. Why? I think there is a connection between this card and the creative classroom, because creativity is something very beneficial. But then when we put it in the classroom's context, would like the students to put their heads together so that they can create together. And then they can come up with something that is very creative, and that is hard to describe it. Okay, I think that's enough. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay, this is, well, I'm improvising everything because in a classroom, there are different contexts, different circumstances, okay? So let's invite Ms. Hui's partner to say something. Okay, I have this card with me. Everybody has this. That is an umbrella. Very often, well, we can see that the umbrella is for sheltering rain from us. But then you have different colors in your umbrellas. So what does that represent? That represents the uniqueness of every individual. All right, thank you. So think about what the subject is, okay? Miss Wong. Okay, Miss Wong was here too last year. Okay, I have this card. Well, I chose this card. We have a tree house here. And then there are people doing something here. They are involved in something, and I'm not supposed to tell. Okay, in this picture, you have one guy who is helping with bringing the taking the apples up, and then there are other people around. So it's like what we did during the past year in the course of our education. So under our CP, we have 4 colleagues, 2 teachers and 2 creative practitioners. And then we work separately, but then we have the common objective. That is to help our students with enhancing their creativity. Why a tree house? Because it's been 2 years. And then since last year, we've been climbing up steadily. And then we'd like to climb to a higher level in the tree house so that we would be making progress and then would be able to see farther. And we want students to be able to continue to develop. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, it's very similar to the tree diagram that was shown to us by Lynn, because we'd like students to climb up the trees. So every primary school is like a tree. Okay, Mr. Lai. Well, I think it's nice to work with Ms. Wang because she has told everything. All right, I noticed this. This is 4 colors. So I think this is very well connected to Ms. Wang's picture, because in her picture is a tree house. And then I think a tree can directly be connected with autumn. So it's very nice scenery. But then there are many people working very hard to achieve something. So just imagine if there is a place with many trees, other than the fact that it's very scenic, when people go there, they can stroll around. And then when people are there, they can work together to achieve something. All right, thank you. Next, from Wong Kam Fai Primary School, Annie. Hi, everybody. Well, my picture has some animals, different animals, horse, doggies, cats, and then they are together. And then I'm impressed because we have the school CPs and students, and we are working together. And they are looking at the same direction, the same scenery. So that's impressive. Okay, audio art or audio artists. So what we'd like to know more about this. Well, I think this is very similar to the one held by Ms. Wong, but then in my picture, I have two animals. One is a bird. So these are two types of animals, but then they are here side by side. So it's like what Ms. Wong said about collaboration. So it can be vertical collaboration. It can also be horizontal. You can have a two-way communication. And I also noticed here that the two little animals, they are sheltered by trees. So trees would represent the support from schools and the institutions. Okay, so that represents collaboration. Okay, Ms. Wong. Well, I'm not going to show it to you because you won't be able to see anything here anyway. So I'll be using my creativity to imagine what this is all about. This is like a sunset. You can see the sunset. So you have a car, and then you have the bear, which is that is doing harvesting, and then having worked with the fields and having done the harvesting, so you have this girl playing the harp, but then the girl was enjoying the scenery, and then there were two animals. I think that's enough. So how does it connect with our theme? Okay, just think about it. Okay, so supposedly this is the field, and then you should be doing the harvesting or working in the fields. So this girl is playing the flute. So how does that connect with your theme? Okay, CP.
Yes, please. With this card, I'm sure you've been to this. This is a park. There are three children there. They are playing on the slide. In my association, in our creative classroom, we tend to see this a lot. It seems really chaotic, and they found their own place in this setting. Dare to fail. We do have the room to fail. Many years ago, I read a book about the record of failure. In fact, there are many researches done on failures, and failures represent the foundation of our success today. Jason. My card is very simple. It is the sky. There is a little girl sitting on a big fat bird flying in midair. There are so many buildings underneath. And I would think in reverse that this fat bird, how can it fly? It doesn't have any legs. And there are so many buildings that are supporting the little girl in midair. So many buildings supporting her. And how is it related to our project? What are the buildings? I'm going to elaborate further later on. Grace, this is the toughest one because everybody said everything else. But I'd like to respond to Sing. This is a white card in the midst of winter. There is the snowman. There is the pig, a cat, a dog. They're all smiling. They are facing one single direction as if they are seeing something. In fact, there are two fruits coming out of the tree. It's like in a creative classroom, we see a lot of difficulties around us, but certainly we will be able to see this bearing fruit. Right? Bear with us, the cards are really small. All right, your turn now. What is the theme? What is the theme? 2 words? I think you're right. Yes, please. Give it a shot. Yes, go ahead, please. Brilliant. You can say creativity, you can say collaboration. They're all correct. Today's theme is collaboration. They are sitting there in pairs. This is a demonstration, a manifestation of collaboration, physical collaboration. Kittikon said that I have filled up my paper, and he was really laughing at me. And I said we're having an online meeting. We did discuss cooperation and collaboration. What is the difference between the two? Please. Collaboration and cooperation. Well, Chinese teachers may give you some examples. Right, you have to be cooperative. So, cooperative, what does it mean here in this context? Well, we can collaborate. So they're working together, but what is the difference between the two? In this JCABC project, why do we pick the word collaboration instead of cooperation? We have had a lot of discussions before, and I think that teachers can share with us. We talked about collaboration and cooperation. They're 2 words, but they are vastly different. Is that right? May you like to give it a try? Cooperation means that we're working alongside other people. We're fitting in. We may not have any initiative. Maybe there is, but not so much. But collaboration, I think both parties, like CP and teacher, they will have to put in the effort. They will have to raise their own ideas. And then we work together and coordinate and get things done well. And it takes 2 sides. It takes a contribution. It is participatory. We contribute our ideas in the process before we move ahead. And there can be interaction. It is interactive. The partnership would be more harmonious. Yes, or can you cite as an example? How do we do collaboration? Well, I'm trying to think. I keep hearing this word collaboration. At first, I thought this was a trendy word. Instead of saying cooperation, we say the trendy word collaboration. Now, we saw some theories. In fact, there is difference. But after I practiced this, I saw the difference. And from the students, everything becomes clear. You are cooperating to do things. Now, you're all sitting here. Do cooperate, please. Collaborate means participation. There is a common purpose, and you have to coordinate. You have to work together. Now, for cooperation, they may be doing different things. There is a division of labor. Everyone is putting in a bit in parallel. And there is no initiative per se. There is no sharing at all. But collaboration means that if this is okay, then I take another step and take another step, and the other party will take another step, and you will be moving towards the same goal, the shared goal. Right, thank you very much. So collaboration is on a higher level, isn't it? Other than that being a trendy word, it is on a higher level. Can you give us an example in the classroom from the CP, student, teacher, or the collaboration between everybody? Well, let me say something here. Other than adding different elements, now we have a tight schedule in the classroom, and like we have to clear the table, and everybody would be picking up their own stuff. But there are certain things that are used on a shared basis. And some students would be sorting out the tools, some would be checking the rubbish, some would be helping his or their partner to finish the task. And some are still in the middle of the task and they cannot really do anything. And with this kind of collaboration, things will get done pretty efficiently. Grace, yes, Tuen Mun Primary School, and this is in the second year. And I saw a big difference. In the first year, at the beginning, we had one session for the CP, one session for the teacher, back to back. This year, we have crossover. When the CPs are doing the talking, the teachers will also interact. And things are taking shape gradually, and the students will find it so much easier to understand and participate. Now, we have 60 people and 4 teachers, and who are we supposed to listen to? And somehow, instead of 4 people, they become 1. There is only 1 person. It's as if there is only 1 person instead of 4. And things cannot be separated out, and they're working together, pulling in the same direction. The students are enjoying. They don't really mind who they are, May, Peggy, or Solworm, or whatever. They are delivering the same thing. So in the Tuen Mun Primary School, and this is what I saw. Also, there are some techniques. You have to have this empathy, and I think, and when you're working as a team, it would be far better than if you were charging ahead on your own. And we change our model, and when the students are seeing this, they will listen more, and they would be able to share their problems. And some students may find it difficult to follow a particular process, and the other students would be helping them out, and they're working as a team. Right? So talked about Stevie Wonder. I thought it was talking about Stevie Wonder. Yes, please, will explain to us what this is all about. Yes, CP or teacher, please jump in. We are collaborating. C, what is C? Feel, think, wonder. So see, feel, think, wonder. Will you give us some specific examples? See, feel, think, wonder. In visual art and also general studies and music, can you cite some example, please? How to apply see, feel, think, wonder? In our school, the topic was plants and animals. And the students have to observe them. They have to observe the plants, will allow them to use the microscope to blow up the size, to have a closer look. In fact, let's say a leaf, when it's blown up, it feels as if they've gone to another world. Animals also, like bees. What is the construct, the physical construct of a bee, and then feel, we say that what is happening around these plants and these animals. So they do have their own feelings. Maybe there are some conflicts between them and human beings. And on to think and wonder. They have to step into the plant and also the animal. If they were the plant, if they were the animal, what do they have to say to human beings? What sort of sentiments do they have for human beings? Now, let's say an aggressive crocodile, and it may need a friend. It may look aggressive on the outside, but it may be really warm on the inside. So they have this extended thinking. In the process, it was, I mean, he talked about the see, feel, think, wonder. In the process, obviously, they applied the 7 tools. This is important. I find in this process, we said that they have to use the body language while they're using the tools. In this year, I saw a great deal of improvement. They're not at a loss anymore. What gratifies me most is that not only do they apply all the tools, they begin to solve the problems that they face. So this is the most gratifying thing that I saw happen in this year. You might wish to have a look. This is the mind map. When they are doing the thinking, they are not just doing this as an observer. They have a lot of spin-offs. I remember when I saw this with Steve and KittyCon, this mind map. Yes, I've got something to say here. We had some chats, and I've noted down everything we talked about. We talk about collaboration and see, feel, think, wonder, and there is a point that I'd like to say about this mind map. Last time when we chatted, and Ms. Hui said something, and she said the student would be crossing out certain things there. What has it got to do with collaboration? Before I joined AFTEC, I didn't have any concept of collaboration. I told the students to be cooperative, to create this mind map about this animal. And they would be, some of them would be writing the color, others would be writing the characteristics, and everybody would be concentrating on their parts. And some others would be writing into the space of other students. They would be crossing out that stuff, and they were really shocked that this happened.
Collaboration is something that you have to develop. It's not just about telling the students that you will have to collaborate. So moving on to the second and third day, when they had to draw up the map, they would have to start to listen to others. It's not just about you doing the drawing yourself. You would have to talk to one another, and then you would work together to come up with this map. So there is a process. So it's not just about telling the students that you would have to collaborate, because the teacher will have to guide them along the way, and then they would have to combine their ideas together in order to complete this painting. So that's what impressed me most. All right, can you see that they are collaborating very well and they respect one another? Okay. Ashit would say, can I finish with this? I think students can learn a lot from this, because a lot of the soft skills cannot be directly imparted in them. But then when you are at the scene, when you are in that context, you will gradually influence them, because you have the right environment, the right ambience. So many speakers here know how to respect one another. And then last time when we were making the preparation, I recall that there were 2 words coming out. Other than process is the tacit understanding. So how do we translate that? Okay, we'll leave it to the translators or the interpreters. So can you tell us what is it all about? What is tacit understanding? What is the rapport among us? So can you tell us? Okay, on the issue of rapport, well, collaboration is something that is hard to teach. You cannot just say that you will have to collaborate. They will have to see how it works. I think we managed to develop this very harmonious relationship because when a teacher is taking the lead, other teachers will then follow up. They would just play a supportive role. So they would not just raise their hands and say, I have a question. So they would just ask the teachers around them. So this is not something that you can directly teach the students. You will have to do it by way of an activity so that they'd be able to develop this feeling in a process, and then they will then be able to make use of it in other activities. So how do you teach empathy? I would have thought that this can only be taught in life science or life education. So how did you do it? Well, last year we had this sound exploration activity. So there was an artist called Kandinsky. So we were telling the story of Kandinsky. Okay, so when we heard some sound, he would then connect it with some colors, and then we told the students that when they heard certain sounds, they would draw some abstract art. So it's not as abstract as we might have thought. So like Kandinsky, they would listen to the sound, and then they would try to connect it with drawing. So there were different types of activities. Okay, so painting and colors and songs, they are connected. So can you tell us more about this? So why do we have to teach empathy in visual art teaching? So we have many school headmasters because, like myself, I'm a music teacher and I'm also teaching visual art. And normally we would not have this very rare opportunity to combine the two things together, so that students would be able to experiment and feel how they can learn and feel visual art in the course of listening to certain sounds, or vice versa. For example, when I look at a painting, I can feel that this color would arouse a musical bit or beat in our mind. And I think a very important basis for arts learning is that you will have to listen. You will have to pay attention to listening to what is happening around you. And then that would form the basis for you to understand others. So that's very important. So this is also a learning opportunity for you to listen. So students will learn how to feel. So you're going very deep. So you're talking about active listening. We would have to provide guidance and counseling. So have you been listening very intensely or actively? And listening can also bring about some thoughts on colors. Well, indeed, every school can also share with us what your experience has been. All right, Wong Kam Fai Primary School. Okay, so one day, there was a team coming to our school, and then very often, kids can be very active. In particular, when we are engaging in innovative or creative activity about drawing and so on. So each and every kid would very much like to tell his own story, and then they would not be bothered with listening, but then they would be focusing on expressing. So it's just this year and the next school term, you can see the change in the students in terms of listening. So they have developed this skill, because when somebody is doing the presentation for others, when they are listening, they would also have other tasks to engage in. So indeed, there is a trick here, because I think you've all experienced that. So how do you deal with students when they are listening to this talk? Okay, when a group of students are doing this performance, and then they would then prepare a group of audience, and they would also be playing the role of advisors. So they'd be making suggestions. in order to help the audience to appreciate the performance very actively. And then at the same time, they would also help the performing students to improve on their performance. So everybody will have a task on hand. Well, cooperation, collaboration would be two different things, because by cooperation, the opposite word is competition. Okay? The opposite of cooperation is competition. And in a classroom, students will have to compete for the teacher's attention. They would also have to compete for the attention of others. So how do we make them collaborate and cooperate? And at the same time, how do we make them listen? Okay, Ms. Ho, can you also share with us your experience? Because I think they try to pair up students, so it's very kind of interesting. So how did that end up with cooperation, competition, or what? Well, this year we have two students doing the collaboration, and the two students would come from two different classes. So they are from two different classes. They are not from the same class, because if they are from the same class, then they would naturally cooperate. And therefore, if they are from two different classes, they don't really know what each other. So how do we make them work together? So we will have to give them this opportunity of collaboration. And then we are also adding in this positive education. And then this is a sense of meaningfulness. And therefore, by that, we will have to work with others, or else we wouldn't have this sense of meaningfulness. So this year, we have the paired up activities, and we have done many activities. They have not been very successful. They are not really competing with each other. They are actually withdrawing from the activity, and they just like to work on their own, and they like to be left alone. And therefore, on some occasions, we have heard students say that I don't really want to go to that class. And then by listening to this, you would be very upset, because when compared with last year students were very enthusiastic, and this year, how come they are not that interested? Because they find it difficult to connect with others. Because in particular, you're talking about someone you don't really know very well, and then it takes time for you to get connected, and it takes some skills before you can be connected with someone. And therefore, we had two versions, and then we are actually working on the same thing. And then every time when we tested with this version, the situation was really very horrible, because they think that leave me alone. I don't really want to do that. But then when they were given a second opportunity, and then of course every time we would also have to reflect on ourselves. How can you do a better job when you communicate with others? Will you be prepared to give more details? And then you would also have to think about what kind of communication skills would be required before you can understand the other guy better, so that you can work together to do a better job. And of course, teachers would also have to have a lot of input. As I said, this is a process, because gradually they see that, yes, I can do a better job. And then in the course of observing, the teacher would also be able to give them some guidance as to how they can do better, what were the problems that the teacher had identified. And then through the process, you can see that they are gradually making improvements or progress. Yes, sometimes we'd like to have achievements very quickly, because once you get connected, then we can connect with you. But then sometimes it takes a process, because for adults, we'd like to be connected with the teacher next to me very quickly. But then it takes some time to get connected. Is a process. So you will have to give them some time. You will have to give them some opportunities. And teachers have a lot of time to encourage the pair-up students to share and observe. And then in the process, we have been using a lot of a CP Think Wonder, C Feel Think Wonder, and then they established this relationship. And then from the very beginning, they were very subjective, and then later on, they would become more objective. So you can see the change. Yes, as Wan Yin said, it's been very difficult. But then, as we have seen, well, for the paired up students, all right, so they were actually doing a trophy. They were cutting up the logs, and you can see that they were working very hard, and then they help each other. So you can see that this kind of collaboration can be easily seen. Yes, well, for the rapport, you can see that there is rapport established between them or amongst them, because without me telling you what I want you to do, you'd know it. So you can see that within a few classes, all right, when they're cutting the logs, okay, we use different saws. The saw is not a problem. But then it takes someone else to help you, because it's not a big saw. Because initially they would have to, well, really use grab the log before you can cut it. So your partner will have to work with you. So what they needed to do is not to press the lock, because you would have to put your hands in a certain position in order to make sure that the lock is positioned well, and then the other partner can use the saw to cut it. Well, sometimes I might be using my fingers. I might be having two people or two students working together to help position the lock, or to okay, then they can cut it in a straight line. So in the process, they can then develop this rapport. Okay, Wan Yin, you just share with us. I think the most touching part is that there is this version 2. Would that be too extravagant a thought? Well, indeed, because at some point we thought maybe we should just give up the idea. But then after some discussion, as you said just now, what do you want the kid to learn in the end? So what's the objective? What's the target of learning? You want them to be independent, and then they can complete the tasks on their own. So we thought about version 2, because you simply do not have enough time for that. Because if you want them to be able to fish, and then they can eat the fish that they have fished, it would take time.
So we decided that we could make up for lost time as long as they can do it. Or if you find it extravagant, maybe we have to think how long the kids spend to learn to talk, how many versions did they try, and then we would understand better. Right, extravagance, I like to say that this is not about version 2. It's also about the time spent on preparation. Wan Yin, Diana, Yan, and all the CPs and teachers, they spent an awful long time discussing the issues, and this is really good. When we made the preparation, they tend to ask why, how. In particular, Diana, she tend to ask these questions. So we have to figure out why we're doing it. So this is one of the extravagance. I'm looking at Lin. This is really extravagant. But this is necessary if we want to build up creativity as a habit, as a mode of thinking, as a mindset. Then we do need to have unlimited number of rehearsals, right? Heyman from Baptist Rainbow Primary School and Miss Race Lee, you put this in the general studies subject. Race, will you tell us about your project? Right. In general studies and science, we incorporate this with art. We thought about something about knowledge, like we talk about animals, and we had different categories of animals. We had some feedback from different people, and then I changed my mind. In the general studies, other than teaching knowledge, we can have thinking from different perspectives. We are also putting forward empathy and others, like animal cage, a tree, a chair. What are their focuses and how are they interacting with the environment? Will the survival of animals be jeopardized, and what is their relationship with human beings? I think we have incorporated all this, and there is the collaboration and coordination there. There is one interesting issue. Some of the students didn't want to come to the creative classroom because the students didn't like it, and whatever they don't like, they would not be interested. And we coax them, we cajole them, we talk to the parents. Well, this is high-handed, isn't it? Yes, hard work for Mr. Lam, and we have to tell the parents they have to have the attendance. And subsequently, they saw some progress in the neighboring team. They're not trying to compete, but this has rubbed off onto them. They feel that they could do the same. And they were not going back to the team, but they said that I'll do the props. And this is a form of collaboration. They may not be on stage, but they have found their own position. Even if this is not visible, but they are participating. And this is an alternative way of collaboration. Yes, Jensen, I've got a question instead. We talked about the version 2, and Ms. Race Lee School also had the stage 2. You mentioned that the students couldn't be bothered at the beginning, and now they are very participatory. Was there any time, in your observation, any problems about the collaboration? Did you see some students being prepared to take the risk, and they're not worried about being hurt? Now, you had a project about animals, and everyone selected cats. Yes, in stage 1, we had the individual work. In stage 2, we had the group work. And we leave it to the students to pick and choose their own animals. And we took them out to the Moss Park to have a bit of exploration. We look at the birds, and we also look at the bats. Just about 10 minutes walk, and they could see a bat. And this is an eye-opener, and I thought that they would choose different animals. And many students picked the leopard cat. And it would be boring if everybody chose the leopard cat. And it's no fun as an exhibition. Now, see if you wonder, they saw that, they felt that, and this is the decision. And this is the outcome of this process, and I had to respect them. It may be monotonous, but they can have different angles on the same animal. As a teacher, I look at it from an adult's point of view, and I think the children's feelings are most precious. They ended up choosing leopard cat, and they can have different forms of crafting, a different way of presenting it. Yes, I remember that. Yes, true. Thanks very much, Race Lee. For the students, they may feel psychologically safe, and they get acceptance. In terms of creativity assessment, we keep reminding the teacher and the parents that they have to look at it from the point of view of the students. We are adults. We may have seen these thousands or tens of thousands of times for the students, and this is the very first time they got in touch with these animals, and they have their own unique ideas. And this is something we have to accept them, and we have to give them a sense of security. Yes, all leopard cats, they may lack creativity. Now, we're all human beings. We're all different, aren't they? And leopard cats are different. Well, at the end of the day, when they showcase this, we saw that each and every animal has its own story, and this is coming out of the children's invention and creation. Even leopard cats, they're not the same. I know two leopard cats are the same. I'm not sure what they are, leopard cats. Yes, we asked the children to collaborate. Now, you mentioned that other than collaboration between the children, there is also the collaboration between the children and the teachers, and there is this confidence, and this is not really confined to the students themselves. Now, there is an example here, and I remember this kid more vividly now, and we're asking them to do something. I went to M Plus Museum, and one teacher had to take 12 students. I was managing the students from behind, and they were having a good time, and some of them would pop to the loo, and one of the students told me that a teacher saw a worm. When we go in, I'll be walking in with so-and-so. I'll be monitoring the right side, and he'll be looking at monitoring the left side. Well, I think they are really they trust us very, very much. And if I told them that you're showing off and you are the monitor in class, I mean, if I said this, they wouldn't have done it. In a creative classroom, we're not preparing everyone to be an architect or an artist. We are trying to build this into their day-to-day habit, and the world will become a better place. May, any supplement? Yes, indeed. Collaboration between teachers in collaboration with the children. Now, there are 4 teachers doing something. You're not sure what they're doing. That's their collaboration. We're asking the children to draw human beings. It is kind of boring, isn't it? So the 4 teachers ended up becoming the models. See, feel, think, wonder, as we said. They were seeing us, they were feeling us, and they were trying to work out what these 4 people were doing. That there is this creative scenario, and one of the teachers was holding the timer, and the other was doing the hurdle, and the other one tripped over the hurdle, and the students will have to come up with the scenario there. And in one of the pictures, there was another student. We couldn't last for 2 minutes. He was so tired. And we asked the students to come out and help anyone who has finished. So a worm has been replaced by one of the students. Like Ms. Tang said, I think we have to leave behind all the baggage. Last year, we're lying on the floor. This year, we became models for the students. So you have to take the first step. And when the students saw us doing this, it would be fun, and they would be inspired. So we have to collaborate with the students, and we also have to collaborate with the teachers and CPs. Now, we have to work in sync. Like Grace said, the students are putting questions to us, and we will have to address their questions. One of the teachers may be the leader, and the CP and the teachers would be observing us. And there are so many materials to be dished out, and the teachers, the students, will be helping out. So in the classroom scenario, the students know perfectly well what they are doing. They know that they were supposed to do this kind of thing, and they would have a division of labor. And I was so touched by the students that in one of the classes they were doing a sculpture, and one of them was really emotional. And one of them said that you should not step into that role, and you'll be okay. And there were 4 people there, and they were explaining to one another. And these 4 students, they had a common objective. They may have different opinions, but they would tell one another that they can offer a way in which you know what you're doing and get things done. And they may be really emotional. They were not having a fight. It was miraculous. Nobody was really worked up, and they didn't fly off the handle, and they worked harmoniously. Right? We're being easy-oriented. We're not being personal. Is that right? Yes, I always observe the behavior of the children when they were at play, and when they were young, and they were doing solo play, and then they had parallel play. You're playing alongside me. If I feel comfortable, I would play alongside. And for the young ones, they don't really want to play alongside one another. When they grow even older, they can play together. And when they grow even older, they observe the game rules, and it will be okay to follow the rules. Now let me put this to you here. May and So talked about new realization about the students. I think this is really precious. How are we different from AI? We talk about ChatGPT these days.
So when you interact with students, you will then be able to find out the characteristics of students, whether they are the strengths, the weaknesses, because this is a living person, so a living human being. So when I listen to you, I can feel that you're very sharp in your observation, because to you, this is a new recognition. This is a new connection. So have you identified any new understanding about students? Yes, you're right, because you've been asking these questions, and then it dawned on me. So when it comes to music classes, because well, this is a very challenging year. This is the second year that we joined this program, and we thought that well, in the subject of music, and Laowa has this expertise, because they've been doing a cappella, and this year we changed that a little bit to sound. And then we have also talked about music and a cappella. So if we were to form a choir, in fact, in forming a choir, this is also a way to train students to work with one another. And last year we did it by way of Zoom, and this year we are now able to have face-to-face classes. So you talk about observing the students and then finding out their characteristics. So from a cappella to leading a class outside. And then last year we did this project. And then this year, when you observe the students, so have you been able to identify more characteristics from the students? Well, this year, when we taught them a cappella, we attach more importance to collaboration, and they would have to focus in me. They would have to listen to what I said. And of course, we would also have them. We would also teach them some music theories. So not every student is really that interested in music. But then this year, we try to lower the threshold a little bit. Instead, we do more explorative activity. So that would kind of inspire them more. And then every student will then be able to identify more talents because at Wong Kam Fai, we have 3 areas of activities. So I was responsible for sound, and then Miss Lee was responsible for visual art, and then Miss Pinky was responsible for drama. And therefore, for the 3 things, when compared to a cappella, the threshold might be somewhat lower, and students would then be prepared to give it a try. And then everyone will have to, put in an effort. And then last year, some students might be more talented, and then they would sing a bit more, and then others would step back a bit. So about the students, has there been any new awakening? Because we were pleased to see that at the start of the school term, when they were engaging in a particular task, they'd say that I don't want to do this. And then my suggestion is better, and then yours is not good. But then as time progresses, we have this very impressive or touching example. There was a group with fewer students. And then there was a student who went to another group, and then they'd like to have the student back. So the girl would tell this boy, and then if we want him back, then we would have to be more polite and invite him back. And then I witnessed her inviting this boy back, but then the boy said that I really don't want to do that. And then they are very nice, and then they accepted that decision. And then the boy would tell me, because he's the only boy in that group, and then he told me. In fact, my mom told me that I should be playing more with boys, and therefore I don't want to stay in this group. And then I told him, well, but I can see that you've been working together quite well. And then the boy decided to stay in that group. So that's all I'd like to supplement. Well, last year, my observation was that our kids, so it's like what was said just now. All right, they had their own thinking, and they simply could not be bothered by others' thinking. But then we are very pleased. This year, we've been organizing a lot of activities on empathy and collaboration, and finally, they managed to have this change, and that's something that we were very pleased with. Okay, so that's the outcome on empathy. Okay, on this side, what do you think? Well, can I ask a question? Because this session is about this creative classroom, and then as you can see, it's very much student-centered. So, because your grouping is very interesting, because you have students, you have teachers, and at the same time, at this creative classroom, what change have you witnessed when compared to what you've been doing for teachers? Okay, how is that different? Because you are now working in a creative classroom, what change has taken place? All right, in every classroom we have a teacher, and then the teacher is not there to govern. So the teacher is there to take part in an activity with them. And then last year, students very often would just sit there, and they were at a loss as to what they were supposed to do. And this year, there was some improvement, because the teacher would be asking some questions, and then our CP, our creative practitioners, when they saw that the students were just sitting there doing nothing, and then they would make a suggestion, and then that would also influence the students. I definitely believe that one person can influence another. So when you see that others are doing something, then you would also make a change. Because this year, I could see that some students were also here last year, but then their roles would change a little bit because they have this recognition, because they knew what we were doing. This is a game. So they would be more prepared to risk. And then when they take a step, they would try to look around and see what the others would be doing. So I think this is a very good tool because we are not forcing them into doing anything. Because when we work with Sungei School, I think there is something very nice because we have trust. We have mutual trust. When we see that the students had this need, so originally we might be moving, we might be walking straight, but then when we see that they have this need, then would be prepared to make a twist or make a bend. So you might have thought that this is extravagant, but then once we are willing to do it, it would work out well. So we would be using limited resources or materials, and then we would encourage them to do something that is unlimited, because everybody has his unique personality. And then they have their own approaches and methods. So we try to allow them to play with this very small chicken's net, so to speak. And then we would tell them that you can now work on bees because their lives would be very different because they would be affected by the surroundings and environment. But then it turned out that not many students were interested in bees. So we just allowed them to try. And then they tried to use this net, and then they use it to come up with something different. And then the next time we went to a farm, and then every small group would come up with a major artifact or arts work. And then initially, they'd like to do this leopard cats. But then we told them that we would like to see something different in that situation. And if they were to come up with an arts piece or an animal, what would they like to see it? Where would they want it to be seen? And then they would be allowed to choose or pick from 2 animals. And then they can make this choice. And I think there is this point which is more interesting because they would then create this product and then they tell us how they did it and why they did it. So it's very good because it means that every student has taken part and they were involved and then they work together to come up with this product. And then when we allow them to explore, that would also help them to come up with this bigger sculpture. And then they would use the leaves to do the imprint. And then they can also stick it onto the product. Well, it looks really nice. Because after they did it in the farm, they would then place it at different corners. And then when we asked them why you have placed it here, and then in the process, what's more important is that in coming up with this product, they are not just doing it for doing sake. They would have to observe, they would have to listen, and then they would have to imagine, and then they would also add in their feelings before they can come up with this product. And then in the end, it was a huge success. Okay, because time is limited, okay. Teacher Xu and then teacher Wan Yin. Can you also tell us what are the discoveries that you managed to get from the students? Yes, what we discovered is that we can learn from the students because I like the creative classroom a lot because I think I was a teacher and then I tried to flip my role with them because I was there to listen to their ideas and then I would collaborate with them and then I'd listen to them to see what they'd like to create. So students would also like it because teachers would be listening to them. I think, the most important thing is that they have the right to choose, and then they would be able to surprise you in the end if you allow them to choose. I think it's mutual reliance. It's is interdependence. So it's not just about students relying or depending on the teacher, and students can depend on one another. They can depend on their fellow students, and then teachers can also rely or depend on fellow teachers. So no one is to be is to play the key role, because everybody is on equal footing. Okay, Joe, I'd be coming back to this card. Yes, it echoes. Because as you can see, this is a girl who is there very freely. But then if you apply this to today's theme, how can we make it a success? That is, there has to be mutual support, and then there would be this underlying support for this. Well, to us, teachers, students, CP, would be giving me a lot of nice surprises. Well, I would summarize it with one question, and I would try to give you an answer from literature. Okay, cooperation and collaboration. Yes, on cooperation, it can be forced, because you can be forced to cooperate. So you can be told that you have to cooperate. And then the opposite is competition. So, but then by collaboration, you have a share or common objective or target, and then you would work together in order to achieve that common objective. So the question that I'm going to ask you is that when it comes to creativity, is it born or is it nurtured? Well, just now, Ah Tong said not everybody is an artist, not everybody is an architect, not everybody is a vocalist. So how come we still have to have this creative classroom? So on creativity, how come in Thailand they would try to come up with this CIP or creative education? You can see that they are willing to invest, and they are very dedicated. So when we think about creativity, what is it all about? Well, people will try to identify the very talented students, as Lok Wah just said. So for the talented people, they will be the selected ones or the picked ones. But then how about the others? Well, there may be some transferable skills. We want every student to have that skill. So is it a born characteristics or is it nurtured? So in education, how do we define this? Thank you.
And back to the MC. Thank you very much for your sharing. Please return to your seat for the time being. Thank you very much. Thank you.